Hey, Linda.
Hi, Rachel.
Thanks for stopping by Coffee and Conversation with Rachel.
This is great. I'm looking forward to it. So pleased that you're doing this.
Oh, well, thank you. Since it's Coffee and Conversation with Rachel, do you have a favorite coffee you like? I noticed you're drinking tea today. Is that your go-to?
I am drinking tea to help with my croaky voice.
Okay.
But yes, I love dark coffee.
Okay.
And I love almost any kind of tea as long as it's robust.
Okay. I'm a tea drinker. I don't love coffee. So I love the Bengal spice tea that you're drinking. It's one of my favorites.
Oh, mine too.
So right now we are doing a series, or we're starting it. You're starting it off for us. It takes a village. So we're having in different people, grandparents, a police officer, a counselor, a teacher, and some other people. And I want to know, as a grandparent, how you find like the best way to support your grandkids and your kids.
Absolutely. It's easy with my grandchildren because they're so remarkably good.
They're pretty amazing.
They are amazing. I love being a grandparent. And I have wonderful kids, and both of my sons and their wives I'm just crazy about. So it's easy to want to support them. When our boys were growing up, we did not have grandparents close by. So we relied on a lot of other people, friends and all. But when we did have a chance to be with grandparents, it was just so rich. Mm-hmm. I grew up with wonderful grandparents who were supportive and encouraging and affirming. And so I really wanted to be that way with our grandchildren. We're so blessed to have them in town with us, all four of them. So it's great. One of the verses that I think about all the time is in Proverbs that describes our grandchildren as the crown of the aged. They are blessings beyond understanding at this point in our lives. So they just keep us happy and laughing and rejoicing about them all the time, and thankful and grateful that God has given them to us in this particular time. So I think our role, what we have tried to do from the time they were born, is to remember that we are to support our children as they parent our grandchildren, rather than try to co-parent and impose our way of doing things. So that's a fine line I think a lot of grandparents have to maneuver, is remembering to be supportive and be there and offer wisdom or opinions when they're asked for.
Okay.
And not to try to just tell your kids what to do, even if you think, oh, I could do this. I know what is called for in this situation.
Like I've learned.
Yeah. But you just have to be quiet and have conversations and model what you think is appropriate, but always be mindful that they are the parents. They are the parents, and they set the rules and the guidelines, the expectations for their children, and we just support that when we're around our grandchildren.
That's very important. We have both of our grandparents here too, and they are just a great support system to us too. If we need, up here, like sometimes I come and film this, and Paul's mom has to take Sadie to school, or they're at all the baseball games. So it's just it's very sweet.
I think one of the things that comes to mind is that when they're little, you just hold them so close, physically, emotionally, everything. You're rocking them, you have them in the lap, reading to them, you're seeing to their physical needs and watching over them and being on the playground with them and all that. And as they age, your involvement changes. So now that London in particular is preteen, her activities, she is just so involved everywhere. So we mostly see her when we go to her ball games our dance recitals or other things like that. And we try not to make demands on, we need to have them over here. We need to spend time with them and all that. So we try to be real involved in going to that. And as you said, seeing to physical needs that our kids have too, running errands or picking up kids. We do that a lot, and I love doing that. But I know how important it is.
Yeah, so you're being present in London's world instead of being like, you need to come to mine, and I want to do this with you. You're showing up for her stuff. So you're just showing up for her in ways that she needs.
Yeah, and Imogen is reaching that point too. So every dance recital or school program or any of the things that we're doing, we love being there with them, and they still appreciate that a lot. It gives them a feeling of security, but also just being able to share with us.
Yeah. My kids think that's very special too. Like they always, every game, they're like, our Mama and Pop's going to be there, Nan and Pa going to be there. So they know when they're there and when they're not there, which is really sweet. And I always like tell them it is so rare that like both sets of grandparents are almost every game you have. Like that is, you have 2 to 3 a week and they're there and they take you to practice sometimes. And like, that's, not normal for most kids. Yeah. So it's very sweet.
Love it. And I love that we have a really good relationship with the other grandparents, the Skidmores. And it's great when we can all be there together and share in that and have fun and go out afterwards or whatever, or know that the other one will take over when we can't be there.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. What have you found, since you all go to the same church and everything together, like how, like spiritually, do you feel like you can support them and stuff like that? Do y'all read the Bible together when they come over? Or I know the Skidmores sometimes teach their Bible class and y'all are like sitting with them lots of times. And I feel like that's a really special thing too.
I do too. One of my favorite memories with my grandfather from the time I was little, I would sit in his lap when he did his daily Bible reading, and he would talk to me about it. And then the older I got, the more sophisticated our discussions and as my understanding grew. And that is such precious time with me. Christian had that with his, Paul and Christian both had that with his grandparents on both sides. So what Bob and I have done from the time they were born is kind of follow that description of grandparenting that's given in Psalm 78 about one of the most important roles for grandparents is to pass on the spiritual heritage. And we have a responsibility not only to teach our children, but also our grandchildren. Our children have learned the lesson very well, not only from us, but from lots of support groups. And they're so strong and intentional in raising their children with a Christian worldview. And doing that and supporting what they're doing is so important. So, yes, we read, we talk, we pray together, all of that. But especially when they were little, I would use fairy tales and other stories and role-playing and dress up and get into all of this to underscore biblical truths in those writings, in those stories, in those games, whatever. When they're little, that seems to be what, they respond to better. Right now, my grandson, Ben, who is 4, is very much into role-playing too. And he came to the house the other day in costume. And he said, I am Goliath. And he said, Nana, please don't call me Ben today. Remember, I am Goliath. So, he's been watching TV series about David with his parents. And so he's on to Goliath. And then sent me a video the other day. Now he's David, So the girls have done that too from the time they were born. So we incorporate that kind of thing into biblical teaching. And of course, we're all in church together.
Yeah.
They know how we value our relationship with God and how we sort of revel in the grace that God has poured out on us.
Yeah.
And that we pray. It's wonderful when we're all together, sitting at the table and having different people pray as we are together, or to ask them to pray for different things that we're concerned about. Is that kind of...
Yeah,
okay.
No. I think that's it's amazing that y'all go to church with them and that they see that, because then if they're struggling with something, right, they have multiple people they can come talk to. And I think that's what's so important about that village is like, okay, well, mom and dad, I don't feel comfortable talking to them about this, or like maybe this person knows something better. So different struggles that people have gone through, they can point to different people in their life like, oh, well, grandma may be able to help you with this because of this, or this friend may be able to help you with this. So I think just that village is so important to support the kids.
That's so very, very true. My mother was a great grandmother, but she wasn't a grandmother just to her grandchildren, but to their friends too. And they all would go to her, even as teenagers and adults, they would go to her and talk things over. So when you're doing that, I think it's really important to remember not to, sorry,
You're good.
Not to criticize what other people might be doing, but find ways to affirm appropriate behavior, appropriate attitudes, appropriate responses, all that kind of thing. But listen to them.
Yeah.
And not try to just yak, tell them what to do. But to listen to them.
Yeah. I think going back to like London and Imogen and Brighton have all their grandparents in town, and our kids have both of their sets of grandparents in town. I just want to encourage people that don't have grandparents in town, or they aren't close or aren't active like in their grandkids' life, that there are people at Westover and probably in your neighborhood and around that would love to step into that role and like build that relationship with your kids. Yeah.
Reach out to friends, aunts, uncles.
Yeah.
There are lots of people really equipped and eager to fill those roles for children.
Yeah. And just some older people don't have grandkids either. Like their kids didn't have kids, or so I'm sure they would jump on that, right? Just
yeah. A lot of older people are listening to the voice of the world telling them, you've gotten to this age, focus on yourself, go travel, go do this. It's your time now. But I think most grandparents would love to be with their grandchildren. I talk to friends and relatives whose grandchildren live in other parts of the country, other parts of the world. They rarely get to see them, and they don't really have a relationship with them. So it's a very precious thing, and you need to figure out ways to build those relationships, even long distance. And of course, not everything is one size fits all. We talked about the importance of not butting in and being intrusive, or telling your parents, your kids, what to do with their children. But we also have to remember that some parents, because of physical or mental issues, are not really capable always of making those good decisions. So grandparents can be a little more assertive in voicing those things.
Yeah. So yes, it takes a lot of people to help raise kids, and just a village. And there are so many people willing to step in and help in raising your kid. I remember I was talking to Catherine sometime about something, and she was like, like in the Bible, Jesus just like listens and asks questions a lot. He doesn't get on to people.
Mm-hmm.
He's like asking questions and listening. I'm like, that's so important, especially with teenagers, right? They just want
absolutely.
to talk to you and be affirmed and like know you're listening and know that you're present in their world. So yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, is there anything else that you just find super important for grandparents to know, to share with us? Any more wisdom?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Share away, please.
I'll just tell you what we enjoy doing with our grandparents, with our grandchildren. We enjoy spending time with them. And remember when Bob and I were young parents, listening to an older man here at Westover talking in our Bible class about parenting and spending time with your kids. And he said, we have a lake house that's about an hour out of town. And we take our kids out there to get away from all the noise, all the voices that they are hearing from all different directions. We get out and we spend time together. Well, not everybody can afford a lake house, he said. So if you can, travel with your children. That's what we were doing when we were raising our boys. We were camping. I am not a camper, but I lived in an all-male household. And I loved camping, loved sports, all that. So I learned to do that with them. We camped in almost every state in the Union. Oh, wow. But as we went, that time was very, very precious to us. All the things that we were learning. I'm a big history buff. So is Christian. So is my dad. And so as we were exploring these areas of country, we were talking about history. And we were also weaving in stories about God's people and their history, how they related. And then I always tried to take books with us that went along with where we were going. So we could sit around the campfire at night, tell stories, play games, laugh, cook together, all that. And then during the day, we would go hiking. But it was a way for us to get away and really show each other, really demonstrate that we wanted to listen to one another and play together. So I think traveling together is really important. It doesn't have to be anything fancy, but it can be. We have traveled with our grandchildren and their families. This past summer we were in Colorado with Paul and Katie and Ben, and that was wonderful for him to see. I grew up going to Colorado every summer, and we would go to some of the same places that I went to as a little girl.
Oh, that's sweet.
So we share family stories about, your great-grandfather loved to go here and do this. And so sharing family history in whatever setting you can, I think is real important too, so they know who they are in God's story of his people, generation after generation. So traveling together, and I learned to go to Disneyland and Harry Potter World and all of that and read the Harry Potter. I would not have chosen to read the Harry Potter series, but it was finally, you are going to do this, Mom. And then I did. And then I played games and role-playing with the girls as they were growing up and doing all kinds of things and looking for Christian symbolism or the good versus evil and all that kind of stuff. So reading together, going to the theater together, sharing your loves, your hobbies, your things that you just love to do and to pass on to your kids is great. My girls, I call them my girls. They're Christian and Catherine's girls. But, the girls love to cook with me. So from the time they were little, I would find tasks for them to do as we cooked together. And they got more difficult tasks as they started growing up. But that was always fun. It's something they look forward to when they come over. What are we going to do? How are we going to make, we got to make Bob some brownies. Okay, that kind of thing. And then they tease him as, he eats too much of the chocolate frosting they've just made or something. But anyway, so I pass on recipes from my childhood, from my family, and talk about those people as we're making those things. So reading, traveling, doing a hobby or something together, and sharing family history as you go along, I think is really important too.
That's really sweet. And I keep hearing you saying, entering into their world. They were really into Harry Potter. So I got into that.
Yeah.
And they were really into this. So I got into that. And right. And you have fun once you get there. And yeah. So.
Yeah. Oh, we make up characters and have ongoing stories when they were little. Well, one time we were in London, so I invented a character there to help distract them from tasks that they had to do. And he was naughty and he got into all of these problems. And so we'd role play. So for 4 or 5 years, every time they took a bubble bath and I was there, okay, Nana, you beat Johnny, da-da-da-da. And we would do that. But it's also passing on values and problem solving and all that kind of thing, but in a fun way.
Yeah.
And of course, Bob and I are older now than when London was born. And then we had COVID, so we can't do all of the same things because of health and just age limitations, So we have to find other ways to do it now.
But I feel like you're finding them. Right. It's so fun. Yeah.
It is. It's wonderful. I love it.
Yeah. Well, thank you for stopping by and sharing a lot of wisdom with us. And hopefully you'll stop by again sometime.
My pleasure.
Thanks,
Thank you
Linda.
for having me.
Bye.